What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We have another project today. We're going to be pulling off the cover on this guy, and we're going to actually cut like a kind of like a window on the top, just so we can hear the supercharger a little bit more. I don't really care for the coldest air possible. I don't think this thing's going to be sucking too much hot air. I also need to put the bottom piece back on here, but I feel like if we're going to have a 3.5 inch cold air intake, well, it's about 3.5 right here, and then tapers down to the 2.75 at the engine, or at the throttle body, I should say. You can see inside here, there's just like so much restriction. You can only see a little portion of the air filter, which is a good and a bad thing. It is bad for performance, obviously, but it is good for keeping moisture and water away from the air filter. So that is one benefit. And then having this cover on top ensures that we are not going to be sucking hot air from the engine bay. This airbox is going to get a little bit more modified, so we can actually kind of hear the supercharger whine. I know you can get intake pipes and stuff like that and make it a little bit more prominent sounding, but we're going to see if we can keep this intake and amplify the sound by modifying the airbox. So let's go. And with the airbox exposed like that, you can see, so this flap is just designed for keeping the elements out of the airbox when you're at like highway speeds and stuff, which is all fine and dandy, but we're doing race car stuff, guys, so we're gonna freaking just cut this guy and deal with the consequences of having a wet air filter when we reach them. So let me pull the airbox out of here, and yeah, should be good. All right, guys, so we got the airbox out of the car. I did go ahead and remove, there's like an electronic device, you guys saw it sitting there. Well, it's not even electronic, it's like a spring-loaded device that opens as, I think, suction gets greater on the car. It'll open up and bypass to this as an inlet. I just took that thing all the way out. So now there's a little bit less restriction going into the intake there. It was sitting right there, just causing turbulence. We don't need it. But what I will do is raise the bottom of that lip there about an inch, so we'll still have a pretty good flap. And then I'm going to take, you can kind of see this seam that is right here on the intake. There's a seam that goes here and then down, so I'm going to cut that piece down here. So this whole inner chunk here is going to get removed completely, and then we will remove about an inch of this across, so we'll still have a little bit of protection, but we will open it up quite a bit. And then on the lid, you can just imagine like a 2.5 inch border around here, and then that inside piece we will go ahead and just remove and just free up a lot of, not necessarily restriction, but we'll just make it able to breathe a lot more and make it so the sound from the supercharger echoes a lot more out of the car. This isn't necessarily a performance enhancement, however it could be if you're pushing big power. I have no idea what horsepower this stock airbox supports, probably a fair amount of power, but yeah, you can run into restrictions with airflow at any point. You never know, especially when air gets turbulent. This isn't like the smoothest flowing airbox. I'm sure it's designed just fine for what it is, but yeah, anyway, we're gonna be chopping it up and making some coolness. Okay, guys, so I went ahead and got the shape cut out that I want. We will go ahead and finalize everything. There are still some ridges on the bottom holding it in place, but this is like a general shape. We might make it a little bit bigger, and then of course we're going to cut those ridges off so this piece comes out. We'll clean up the edges and see how it looks. This one on the bottom here, I kind of got carried away and kind of went offline, so I might just correct it by going a little bit bigger on this side here. But otherwise, it looks decent. Not the best, not the worst. We'll get it all cleaned up and make it more uniform and get all this excess plastic off, but this is a general shape that we will go with. Alright, so with that middle section, this is what we are coming out with so far. We'll go around the edges with like a file and get everything more uniform and better looking, but for now, this is what we're coming out with. Yeah, anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get this thing all cleaned up and also get the airbox modified as well. Alright guys, so this is what I came up with. This is the whole box. I think I still might cut an access window in the front here, but I had no idea. So with this thing all together, not in the car, and with this new hole cut, so as you can see, I did cut this along the seam here. I didn't follow it all the way up here. It's just getting really tight and kind of hard to cut, so just kind of made it's somewhat clean. It's not the best cut, but you can see that this flap actually gets extremely close to the side of the air filter. Of course, it's really dark in there, so you guys can't really see, but there is about -1/4 gap, if that, maybe a little bit smaller. So at really high RPMs, or when the motor is under like extreme amounts of load or whatever, when it's really sucking a lot of air, I would imagine that it is actually pretty hard, given the clearances around the filter in this airbox. I would say that it is probably pretty hard for this car to breathe in the factory airbox. That's just my opinion. Of course, air is always around the filter. However, I am sure that it is probably getting restricted at super high RPMs with this box being as tight as it is around the filter. I'm sure it is probably pretty restricted. So it is probably a good thing that I did cut the window up top. I'm not claiming that it's going to make you more horsepower and stuff, but given just the layout of this small airbox, pushing like 400 or 500 wheel horsepower with a stage 2 plus car, I bet this airbox is probably becoming a restriction at that point, more so than people would think. So glad I did this. We will see the results. Got to finalize some things in the next few days, but this is where we're going to leave it for today, and we'll throw it back on the car and see what happens. Alright guys, so we got the airbox back installed. Here is it on the car. Looks fine. It'll look a little bit better with some mesh on it, but for now this is what it is. And we've got, you can see inside, you can't, of course not, but we've got that piece cut a little bit, so we've freed up some space for the airbox, so should breathe a little bit better and make some more noise for me.